It sounds terrible to say fun. Hey y'all, it's Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today. And for this video, we are going to be doing my July wrap up. Alright, so before I get into anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comment what is the best book that you read in July. Add to my TBR, because you know, it definitely needs it. It is absolutely freaking wild to me that it is already August. Mind boggled. I can't believe it. It's so wild. Time is just flying. In other news, I do think I'm luckily out of the reading slump that I had been in for like the last month and a half. I think I have crawled my way out. It took some work, it took a few duds, but I'm finally reading every day again and actually enjoying majority of what I am reading. You can definitely see this reflected when looking at my stats, because these numbers are much better than last month's. So in July, I read 14 books, and across those, I read 4,036 pages. That does include converting audiobook hours to pages, but in regard to audiobook hours, I listened to about 64 hours. My average rating for the month was 4.05 stars, and unfortunately, I did have one DNF. I was definitely all over the place this month when it came to genres, so I had one fantasy book, one historical, followed by 4 horror. That definitely was Summerween right there. I had 1 manga, 1 mystery, 1 nonfiction, 2 romance, and then 3 sci-fi. Plus, when it comes to little stats I keep for myself, I did finish a book that was more than 450 pages. I did finish a nonfiction book, and then I did read a comic or manga. Plus, when it comes to my series stats, I'm also rather happy with these. I did start into 1 new series. I continued on with 2 separate series. I finished out 1 series, which has been a really long running project, and then I did decide to not continue on with another. As per usual, I'm only going to be reviewing books in this video that I didn't talk about in specific reading vlogs. I think this month the only one I had come out was my Star Wars canon project, so if you want to hear how the High Republic section closed out, go check that video out. I'll put a link to it in the cards as well as in the description. I think I'm going to be a little boring this month and just go through these books in the order that I read them. So starting at the top, the first few books I finished this month were because of Summerween. I did have a reading vlog for that, but I didn't fully review the books there, so I'll put a link to that one in the cards as well. First book I finished out was Greenfuse Burning by Tiffany Morris. This is a little horror novella that I've had on my TBR for quite some time, mostly because of this cover, if I'm being honest. I mean, it's a little unsettling, but it's really pretty. I love the color usage here. So as I said, this is a novella, meaning I don't want to give you too much, but we're following a woman who is an artist that has recently lost her father, and he was really her sole connection to their culture because he was native and she is only half. So she's always felt a little out of place because of that. But her girlfriend, in an attempt to try to help her, enters her into this, I guess, I don't know if you would call it like a fellowship, like a grant process. It's something like that. And she actually ends up getting it, which initially she's not really happy about because she has been hitting a serious block when it comes to her art. However, it's actually located at the place where her father grew up. And so she's hoping this will kind of allow her to reconnect with him as well as their culture. I ended up really liking this. It balances personal grief along with climate grief very well. It's really cool in how the book is also laid out. There are different art pieces to start each chapter that all have this nature theme, but also just something slightly off about it, and then a little description to go along with the art piece. This is gorgeously atmospheric writing. I mean, it was beautiful. It really settled you into this world. It's very slow moving and creepy. It kind of eases you towards this unsettling feeling rather than like actively scaring you. But the little seeds the author plants early on in the story really start to ruminate, and once you hit the climax, they are a bit kind of scary. And again, tying back to the themes of climate grief, I mean, one of those where it's very realistically horrifying, even if there's some weirder things going on. This honestly felt like a fever dream, but I actually really enjoyed it. I also loved how this book closed out. It's one of those where it really could have gone one of 2 ways, and I think I wouldn't have been mad either direction, but I liked that it went with this one and that we were really able to see the changes that the character had experienced off of this wild ride that she's gone through. In the end, I gave this one 4.5 stars. I would definitely consider getting a physical copy of this so I can annotate it, because like I said, the writing is beautiful. It was so good. Next up, also a part of Summerween, actually it's going to be just kind of these first few books, was And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. This is my first of Christie's work, and I've really been wanting to try her stuff out. I've been wanting to do a project reading like the Hercule Poirot series or the Miss Marple, is that what it is? Miss Marple series. However, I have plenty of other reading projects going on, so that has yet to happen. But this is kind of the classic whodunit on a locked in area, and characters begin to be taken out one by one. I did really enjoy this. The premise of the plot is based around this rhyme, and so with that, you start with 10 characters, which was a bit much just because you're kind of thrown in, and initially it's hard to keep everybody straight. But obviously, as the cast starts to decrease, it gets a little easier to follow along. I really did like this. I understand why Christie was considered the queen of twists, because 9 times out of 10, I feel like I usually guess some element of the mysteries I read nowadays. This one was not right at all. Didn't see it coming. I'm also pleasantly surprised that I don't think I've ever been spoiled for this, which, given the number of works that have been based on Agatha Christie stuff, that's really saying something. It was a really bingeable read. I mean, I read this really quickly, not just because of the readathon, because I didn't want to stop listening to the audiobook. Obviously, it does feel its age a time or two. By the end, I do understand why this is so popular. I mean, I think this was one of the most popular books I had on my unread TBR, and I'm glad to have finally gotten around to it. 4 stars. Next one I read was Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. This is another horror novella, ironically also dealing in grief, where we are following this boy whose father passed when he was 4, and now he has started to see his father around the trailer they live in, and he thinks he's trying to become part of the family once more. Along with that, his little brother Dino is also starting to have more health issues and problems at school. This was a rough read. This also really reinforced that I love Stephen Graham Jones's writing. This stream of consciousness style just has started to work so well for me, and is probably why he is one of my most read authors, because it just settles you into the character's perspective so well, and it makes the story so consumable. Junior really did feel like a 13-year-old boy who is battling between trying to look out for his brother, look out for his mom, but also missing his father and kind of struggling with the role of becoming the man of the house, and just, it was really good. The discussion around grief in this never stagnates. It is constantly evolving and shifting and changing, kind of how grief does as you experience it. And it also kept me on my toes as I was reading this, because I never was quite certain what was going to happen next. Like I said, I was really impressed with the character work around Junior. I mean, this is barely over 100 pages, but he felt like a very well created character. And by the end of the book, I felt like I did truly understand him after watching everything he has gone through here. It was rough. I was tearing up at the end, but it was really good. Honestly, I would have loved this if it was longer, if we were allowed a little bit more time with the ending that happened here. Also, I don't know if I could handle more. This was really good. This was really good. 4.5 stars for me. I also got to meet the author this past month, which was super cool, and I told him he currently has the record of making me cry not once but twice this year in his books. Next one, we have mieruko-chan Volume 6 by Tomoki Izumi. This is the manga I'm currently working on, where we are following this young woman who has the ability to see ghosts and is terrified of that, but doesn't want to react to it so the ghosts don't know she can see them, because she's not sure what will happen. And that's kind of an initial gag of the series, but it really expands upon it, and you start to learn more about the paranormal world that is happening here with the different mediums, the different types of ghosts, and like what they really mean, how they're not necessarily always malevolent, but like also you can't always trust them. I mean, I'm really enjoying this series. It is continuing to deepen, the plot is continuing to thicken. I will say there was kind of a twist that happened with the character here that the author has sort of done before. It's not a one-to-one comparison, but there's a character that's introduced in a sort of suspicious way where we're supposed to think this is a bad guy, but then there's a shift in perspective and you see it's not quite that black and white. Like I said, it's not a one-to-one comparison, but it is sort of similar, meaning I don't think it was quite as impactful this time around. The relationship that this character has to another character we already know does have me very intrigued, and with where this one ends out, I am so excited to continue reading this, and I'm really intrigued on what the suspicious character's role is going to be as the story continues. So this came out to 4 stars. Next up, and the last book that I sort of read for Summerween, this was like my palette cleanser that week, is Flirting with Disaster by Naina Kumar. This is also an author who's going to be attending the Buns and Roses romance tea that is taking place in October. If you are from the Dallas-Fort Worth area and interested, I will have information for that in the description down below. It is so much fun and it helps a good cause. But anyway, this author is going to be attending the event and I'm now very excited to meet her and read more of her stuff because this first one was really good. Sold as kind of like Sweet Home Alabama, but set in Houston and then with a Desi couple. I was really excited going into this. So we are following Mina, who at the start of this book has just woken up in Vegas, married to her boyfriend, Mikil. And though they were not intending on this, they decide to make the most of it and try to continue on with their lives. Then the story starts. It is 6 years in the future, and Mina is living in DC, planning to travel to Houston in order to force Mikil to officially sign divorce papers. However, she does not realize while traveling down there that there's an incoming hurricane. Honestly, it's kind of impressive how much I enjoyed this one, given the fact that a lot of the issues around this couple come down to lack of communication. I mean, yes, it was frustrating, but I think the way it was handled in the book felt really realistic, actually. I could understand people in real life making these choices. Second chance romances always have a hard time of really balancing between making me convinced as to why they broke up, but make it not so heinous that I won't root for the couple to get back together. And I do think Kumar managed that very well here. Something I always enjoy in my romance books is when we watch the characters have to work through their own issues before they can come back together to be a better couple. And that definitely happened here. Each of these people were really working through some insecurities, their own chips on their shoulders, and that ended up affecting their relationship. And it seemed so authentic. I would have appreciated if there was maybe a little bit more talking out of stuff at the end, but even still, there was so much passion between them at the same time that there was never any denying that there was something there. At no point did I ever feel like they really couldn't work this out because it was so clear they cared so much about one another. Given the lack of communication, I really loved when they finally just let loose and were brutally honest with each other and started to talk things out. That was such a good scene. I also thought the setting was phenomenal. I mean, having been to Houston numerous times, yeah, Kumar definitely hit it, but also the hurricane element I thought was really, it sounds terrible to say fun, but fun in a unique way of kind of forcing these two characters to spend time with one another and allowed for some interesting circumstances where they have to work together and they have to rely on each other, and it was very entertaining. I also felt like this book was more steamy as opposed to spicy. Like I said, there's so much passion between them, there's a lot of build up, but when it comes right down to it, I probably would have preferred if this had gone a bit spicier. I wanted to see just as much passion in the bedroom as we saw outside of it. All in all though, this was a really fun time. I'm definitely going to check out the prior book by this author, Say You'll Be Mine. This one came out to 4 stars. Next up, for my nonfiction book, I finally finished out the one I started in June. It came from the closet. This is a collection of essays from queer authors reflecting on horror movies and how they affected their perspective on their queer identity and how they see themselves represented in queer movies. I really enjoyed this. Like most other essay collections, there are some that I definitely connected with a lot more. There were some that moved me more, and there were a few duds here and there. For example, I felt myself represented in 3 Men on a Boat by Jen Corrigan, but overall, I didn't really love that chapter on Jaws, or Indescribable by Caro Narby. I mean, wow, that chapter had some great lines in it. It was so good, and also introduced me to a horror movie I have never heard of before, but I'm definitely going to check out. And that's kind of something across the board, I'm going to say. This is probably going to be the list of horror movies I will be watching when it comes October time, but I did really enjoy this, analyzing horror movies through this queer lens, and this definitely has me intrigued to check out some more horror film analysis. There were a few essays that like mentioned other essay collections, or I checked out some of these authors and saw other works that they have written in, and so definitely was adding to my TBR. I averaged out all of my ratings for each of the chapters and it came out to 4 stars. And last but certainly not least is the horror audiobook Josh and I had been listening to for probably over a month now. We finally finished out The Babysitter Lives by Stephen Graham Jones. We literally finished out the night we went to this author event to meet him and get these flip copies. He has now started into Killer on the Road and said it's really good so far. I'm very intrigued. Back to The Babysitter Lives. In this one, we are following Charlotte, who is a senior in high school, and she is babysitting for these two twins for the first time. And she is really determined to ace her SATs, get a scholarship, and get the hell out of this small town. But this babysitting job turns out to be a lot more than she was anticipating when the twins start discussing this other mommy that they have and the funny places they have around the house. Respectfully and positively, what the that kind of sums up my feelings on this. I think this is probably one of my first books that broach into cosmic horror. And so with that, once I figured it out, I knew this was going to be really freaking weird. And it is. It's like a haunted house story, but also not. There's like layers upon layers to this. And every time you think you know where this is going, it's going to take a hard turn and you're wrong. You're so wrong. It was a wild time. There were so many moments that were so for very different reasons. There's the creepy kid element, there's the funny place thing, there's the terrible history of the house, losing your family members. There's like realistic horror mixed in. Oh my god, it was so weird. It was so creepy. So I gave this one 4 stars because I had a freaking wild time experiencing it. And it's definitely one that I kind of want to reread and see, like, knowing where the book is going, does that make me pick up on stuff that happened earlier on a little bit more? I don't know. It was a strange time, but it was also really good. And like I said, now I am very intrigued to try out the opposite side of this one with Killer on the Road. And so on that note, that is officially it for today, y'all. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, let's leave a spider emoji in the comments. I have links to all of my socials as well as a few ways you can support me down in the description. I come out videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope that you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!